already be live. Can you guys see it on my?
We are live and we are
We
recording.
are?
Yes.
We're live? Oh, cool. Okay, excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Yay, this is the first time I was actually able to get this to work on my business page, just live. We have been recording it recently. I mean a discussion with this group of people over on my Facebook timeline. Whoa, who can hear that thunder? Is that cool or what? Well, anyway, I hope I don't get electrocuted for having my computer on. Are we allowed to have our computer on during thunderstorms anymore? I don't know. Allowed, listen to me, all about the rules. So anyway, we are going to have a discussion about my daughter Brett's blog post, Courage to Change, which I will post here in a little bit. And she will be opening up our discussion by saying what prompted her to write this blog post, and she will be facilitating this conversation. And before we get started, we will be introducing ourselves, and I do want to say that today is, oops, why did I decide to do this? Wednesday, August 12th, and we're recording it, so cool. So I think we're good to go. Regina, would you please introduce yourself?
I am Regina Cooper. I am president of Maxer Consulting Group with James Cooper. My husband, we're pastors, and we have an online ministry, Restoration International Christian Ministries, and we air on Saturdays at 12:30-ish. Usually we're pretty good at 12:30. James and I are in Towson. I guess we're west of you, Jory, and we don't have any thunder yet.
No, oh, it'll come, I bet. I bet. All right. Cool. James, how about you?
Good day, everybody. I'm James Cooper. I'm the other half of the Regina and James show. And along with that, we are also parents. I think a fun tidbit is we just came back from officiating a wedding down in Charlotte, North Carolina. And the really cool thing about it was our old neighbor's daughter, who when we left Charlotte was 6 years old. And we had the honor of coming back and actually officiating the wedding. So that was something that was really cool. So we get to get out and live life and have a good time, and we're just happy to be a part of this.
That's great. Thank you, James. We have a guest today, my wonderful friend, and I've just introduced her to Regina, James, and Brett, Michelle Murder. And Michelle, would you be so sweet to be introducing yourself while I try to get some more light in the room? This thunderstorm has made everything dark. Thanks.
I am Michelle Murder. It's so nice to be here. I am just north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I am an entrepreneur. I own a virtual franchise with the Juice Plus company, which helps people get fruits and vegetables into their life. So I'm a certified health coach, and I also am becoming a certified trainer for Bank, which helps people increase their sales.
Yay, and that just happens to be how I know Michelle. Fantastic. And Brett, before you introduce yourself, I want to give a shout out to Vonda Laffey. Hi, Vonda. She has been thankfully loving our little, I call them our God Squad discussions. And so I told her that we were going to try to get over on my business page today. So she made it, and she's here, and she says hello. So that's cool. Yay, thank you. Okay, Brett, go for it.
Well, I'd like to start off by saying just this week I had the conversation of, thank goodness the name God Squad was more of an internal than an external out to the world thing.
Whoops. That's true. It was supposed to be, yeah. Okay, well, here we are. The God Squad.
I will state that I remain opposed to this and was not given a vote on this name, since I'm already on the record for so much else. But I am Brett. I have traveled the world extensively through work, through the Navy, spent a lot of time in other cultures. My mother, Queen of the God Squad, did raise me in a Christian household. But since I've left home, I've studied a lot about Islam, and then recently just reading about some Buddhist principles, and I don't know, I kind of consider myself as just the person who comes with a lot of questions. And I enjoy listening to people. But usually the questions, some have accused me of being the devil's advocate. I just find them interesting. Sometimes it's more interesting to watch their reactions and to hear what they say, but I'm slowly learning as I mature to listen to what they say too and not just make people squirm. There you
Well,
go.
if the God Squad can't handle a devil's advocate, I don't know what we're doing. So, hey, you know, it's okay, Brett. You just bring it. You just bring it. All right. Yay. Okay, Miss Brett, what are we talking about today?
Well, I was thinking about the concept of change and
Oh,
just
wait.
my own.
I forgot to introduce myself. Hold that thought, Brett. So I'm Brett's mother. And I do have two other daughters, her twin sister, Jana, and her older sister, Rebecca. And then I have 4 stepchildren, who are wonderful. So we have in our family a total of 6 women and 1 man. I'm used to saying 6 girls and 1 boy, but I guess I have to say women and men at this point because they're all, 27 and above? Yeah. Oh my goodness, 27 to 37. So I'm a mother, stepmother, wife, pet parent to a wonderful rescue dog, Cowboy, who also snores. And to, I'm not referring to, okay, anyone's going to think that I'm referring to Brett's sister's comment in the blog post, but I actually meant Michelle's dog snoring, but, and a guinea pig. And I'm a business owner. I love sales and training, coaching, all of that. And I love bringing people together and forming wonderful relationships, especially when we can discuss faith. Okay, so with that, Miss Brett, I'll shut up.
All right. Well, I was just thinking about the concept of change. I am definitely a creature of habit, and I kind of consider myself a recovering perfectionist in many ways. And we're all teleworking, many of us on and off. And there was just a week when I found myself really miserable and just slaving myself to my desk. Like, I will be here. I'm going to be here 9 to 5 or however long. Like, I'm just do it and do all the things. And then I looked in the mirror and I went, wait, I can change. This doesn't have to be like this. So recognizing the threads of my sanity slipping away, namely when someone calls you over a routine admin item and you're like, I will kill you, but I won't, but I want to. That's when you know. That's when you know you need to take a step back. So I actually did telework from another location that involved me hiking and just being somewhere different and not being miserable, more to the point. And when I got home, I was kind of thinking about like, well, I can change. I don't need to do one thing all the way, all the time. And then ironically, that was the same day that I received a card from my friend that said, never, ever, 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 ever change. And the inside's just like, if it doesn't, and if you do change, I'll send a very strongly worded note to your editor. And just chuckling over that irony, it made me think back to when I was 8 and being slightly strong-willed even then. I just remember I was just stamping my feet and I was like, I am going to stay up late to 10:30 every night and I'm going to read books and I'm going to just do all the things because reading is important and this is what I do. I sleep in the basement. I make myself a nest now and this is me. Accept it. Granted, this is an 8-year-old. Now, Mother says she doesn't even remember this incident, but she must have just been like, not worth fighting.
One of many, one of many.
Well, you know, that was a handful. Anyways, I did this whole thing. I had my system. System's good. We're rocking it. And then a couple days later, I'd be like, you know, I'm peeling apart my blankets. And I noticed all of this like nasty shed rabbit fur and like little rabbit pellets of poop. And I was horrified. I was like, this is where I sleep. This is disgusting. I can't. This is awful. And then that ended sleeping in the basement.
Hey, Brett.
Yes.
I think we should interject here that we had pet rabbits and that was their home in the basement. It's not like wild rabbits came wandering into our house. These were our pets.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that their fur needed to float into my blankets.
Well, this is true. But for people who don't understand that we had pet rabbits, they might wonder why you had rabbit pellets and fur in your Afghan blanket. Just context.
Either way, it was gnarly.
True.
And then thinking about it, you know, I kind of drew 4 notes from it, and some of them are, dear goodness, so deep we don't have time today. One being like, you know, I have an 8-year-old self stamping my feet, invoking God, right, justice on my side. And so I was like, well, the first observation is, just because you invoke God, right, and justice, maybe he's not on your side. I mean, that's just so much. I mean, you look at 2 different armies on a battlefield, each one's praying to God. They're like, God is on our side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe because we say the words doesn't make it true. And then one of the other notes I took from it was like things that seem good, like reading until 10:30. Maybe not appropriate in every context. You know, 8 years old, children, sleep, helpful. And then kind of the last thing was, you know, I can change our habits. And not everything that we stamp our feet on, we say we have to do it, we get really frazzled about it, doesn't actually need to be the case. And again, I used a very simple comical story just for other context. I was when I was 8, I had an afro. You know, a small thin framed child with an afro, just being like, I will do all the things, hair flying everywhere. And it's a simple story. It's meant to make us laugh, you know, and if I was going for the full dramatic context, like the thunder shook the house, much like now, you know, everything is happening, fears, trembling. What about the rabbits? But if you think about it, change is something that is both scary and inevitable in our lives. And even too, when we do approach our faith, and there are different faith angles we can pull into this, the serenity prayer, you know, the God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, courage to change what I can, I'm the wisdom to know the difference. Or again, some of the Buddhist concepts of just noting our behavior with mindfulness, but then having the compassion to not judge it. Obviously very prevalent and necessary across all the cultures. So then it just comes in today, like what does this mean for us? What does it mean in our personal lives? What does it mean for the church? What does it mean for our faith in the church? In a specific church or in the institution. So small lighthearted way to bring out some big concepts. James, you're unmuted, so you get to be asked first. Are there any changes that anything your 20 years ago self would not be thrilled about? Mom, I saw you just muted yourself, so you're not next. Saw that? Thanks.
Thank you, Brett. And I love how you took a comical approach to a really great question. I've learned that there aren't a lot of things I would change about me because it brought me to where I am now, right? But how I deal with change would definitely be one of them. Because like you, I like routine. I like, quote unquote, normalcy. And I like knowing what's going to happen next. And one of the things we've learned over the last 9 months is that no one knows exactly what's going to happen next or how it's going to happen next and how it's going to impact us. And as people of faith, one of my beliefs is simply that we need to learn how to adjust but maintain our center or maintain our foundation, right? So if you think of a skyscraper, these big tall buildings, right? They have a firm foundation, but they still sway back and forth with the weather and with the conditions. They have some flexibility. And one of the things I've learned over the years and continue to learn, I'm a work in progress on this one, is how to be flexible and how to be accepting of the change and how to try to compress that timeline so that it happens, I see it, I internalize it, what does it mean to me, what's different about it, what's different about me, okay, how do I move forward? And then try to walk that out. Now, total transparency, that doesn't happen every single time. And, depending on the emotional state and intensity of those situations, I still have my, my Brett-like temper tantrums at times. Although I have yet to voluntarily go to the basement, I might get sent there, but that's a different conversation. Different conversation. But what I'm continually learning to do is try to realize that my solid ground isn't quite as solid as I believe, but I do believe that I won't fall through. So, while it might be a little scary, it's not terrifying or as terrifying anymore.
Thanks, James. I think that kind of highlights the reason for why I'm getting a card that says never ever change. The same day I'm thinking about the concept of like, I can change, I can. And what I would like to pull from that is really differentiating between habits that we do and our fundamental sense of self, or what would be the foundation. In the sense that our habits are everything that we build up, but that foundation is our sense of self, which is what that card was discussing. Regina, what are your thoughts on all of this? What are your thoughts on the basement?
I think that we create habits trying to make consistency in a place of trying to be in control of where our lives are going to go next. And what I have found, and that I'm a person that I've learned to embrace change. I had to learn because I was one that, don't look away, James. I see that. The journey of, this is what I'm used to. If I do this, I'm consistent, it'll get better, it'll change, I'll be the best me that I can be. And then the world ends up showing up, and it's like, what in the world just happened? So what I've learned, I don't think we were ever meant to be stagnant, complacent, and part of that change that we have to deal with, and the thing we have to learn to do, is to walk along with it. So in those habits, and I'm learning those habits so that we have a sense of who we are, and then understanding that our control, we have to let go of control to really experience all that life has for us to experience and to appreciate what we have. Because if we don't do that and we hold on to everything with our own reins, we miss all the extras, all the bonus pieces that we walk through that we would miss just with our blinders on. And this is what I'm doing. I'm not moving. I'm just going to go along this path. So if I had to go to the basement, I would probably go and find adventures and figure out what else I could find in the basement. I would find we were just talking about this on our way back, how I keep finding interesting things out of nothing. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Did you ever think of this? Which James looks at me and goes, why are you thinking about that? Because it's just a cool thing to think about.
That's
Awesome.
good.
Michelle, have you ever had that moment yourself when all of a sudden you're like, wow, I was really clutching onto that belief. Sometimes it's meeting with a friend. You're like, you know what? We're going to be accountability partners. We're going to do it. And you keep meeting with them. At some point you look around and you're like, why am I meeting with this person? Have you ever had that moment?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So, and I think so it's not how you react to, what am I trying to say? So change is good. But I don't think people necessarily need to change themselves, like you were saying. And when you keep meeting that same person over and over and getting the same result, or they're pulling you down and making you stagnant, that's when sometimes you have to look at that person and say, hey, you know what? This isn't serving me. I'm not helping this person. They're not helping me. It's just not a good relationship. And for change, like I wouldn't change anything. I've been through a lot throughout my life, but it has made me the person I am today. And I think we're all on a journey, and we need to not change as people, but grow as people, to get to the next level. And we have to be grateful for the things that we have in front of us to be able to move on and get the things that we want in life, and to make the changes that we want to help people and do the things.
Thanks. Yeah, gratitude is always kind of like the magic secret ingredient, isn't it? when we're like kicking our heels in, we're like, I will not change, this it sucks, I won't do it. And you're like, well, what have I learned? How has this been good for me? James, what do you think? I know you're chuckling.
Absolutely. A mentor of ours years ago said, change is good when your attitude is great, right? And that's one of the things that we've adopted and continue to grow with as we've gone on this journey. Is I look for, I'm becoming a hunter for the good in the situation, right? And I'm not talking about being an eternal optimist, although I've been accused of that many times, and I'm okay with that. But what I'm talking about is searching for the opportunity in the midst of it. Because as entrepreneurs, we know that every problem is really an opportunity in disguise, right? We know that every situation has an upside if you're looking for it. And I've learned that I can grumble or I can become grateful. I can choose whichever way I want to go. And those are the types of changes that we try to adopt. So, there's the unexpected changes, but there's also the intentional changes that we need to make in order to get to the next level. So when we're setting goals or trying to accomplish things in our lives, there's some things I'm going to have to change. If I want to, get down in weight to 200 pounds, then I'm going to have to change some things, right? I'm going to have to say no to chocolate cake. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm going to. I'm going to say no to chocolate cake. But, you have to make some adjustments, and you have to be willing to. It's the unexpected changes that tend to toss us to the side. But even if those unexpected changes come and you're already on the path to walking down the road of change and trying to make some changes, they don't upset you as much. And that's where gratitude for me comes into play. We go, one of the things that we challenge people to do, and is a challenge for me, is I go to sleep and I wake up every day with a list of things I'm grateful for. And it does not have to be over the top, super duper. I'm grateful I woke up with a sound mind. I'm grateful that I have Regina and Andrew in my life. I'm grateful to be on this, to have an opportunity to be on this, what do we call this? This thing today. Yes.
What did Regina call it?
I said a panel.
Panel. That's good.
This panel discussion. I'm grateful to be on this panel discussion today, because it opens our minds and it expands us and gives us an opportunity to grow. So I've learned to look for the good in the little things and in everything, and it turns out better for me. And then I adjust to the change a lot more, or a lot easier.
Yeah.
Well, I love this concept. I love where it's growing. But what about the hard things?
Look,
What about when we hope we got something? So, good old Mother Dearest, I notice you have not been called on.
Yeah, look, that's.
But what do you do when the change is hard? What do you do when you don't get the judgeship and you put all your plans into getting a judgeship? What about switching from a career in law to becoming a life coach with significantly different income? What about getting diagnosed with scary things? How do you adjust to those changes gracefully?
Okay, well, no problem. I got that. Well, I will say this, that I have always been very grateful that there is one constant in my life, and that is Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. I mean, I honestly can't remember a time in my life. Oh, hi, Bonnie.
But what about the puppies? I thought they're constant too.
Exactly, that's true. We've always had a house full of rabbits or hamsters or puppies or guinea pigs or horses or ponies or all of the above. That's exactly right. In fact, one of my high school friends is here, and she probably remembers my pony Dapper and my horse Fancy. Hi, Lynn. I don't know if you do, but I had them when we were at Langley. So anyway, back to the more serious question. I really can't remember a time in my life where I couldn't call on Jesus. So that's been a good thing. That has been a very good thing. And that gets me through very difficult times. So for example, when I found out I had 2 holes in my heart, not 1, but 2, at the age of 54, and the doctor told me this wasn't looking good. I just kind of had this sense of curiosity and peace, really. It's like, well, God has gotten me this far with holes in my heart, you know, through being a cheerleader and a dancer and giving birth to twins even, and all the different things that I had done. It's like, I'm gonna be fine. You know, everything is in God's time. Now, with respect to what Brett is referring to, I mean, that's one health example. I have others, other health examples, but that's one. And then with respect to career, what Brett's referring to is when I was just heartbroken that I didn't get a judgeship that I really, really was wanting in Lynchburg, Virginia. And you know, as it turned out, you know, in hindsight, I can see that it was a better thing that I didn't. I was able to go on and help get Liberty University School of Law started and all kinds of cool things. But at the time, I absolutely was heartbroken. And, you know, that's a little bit different from change, Brett, because instead of changing, I didn't get to change. So there's that element of change as well. When you're hoping for a change, you know, a job promotion or something, you know, maybe you're hoping to conceive. Maybe you're hoping to give birth to twins and you don't. I mean, there are a lot of things where you're hoping for a change and it doesn't work. Either way, there can be devastating disappointments. And right now, I'm looking at what people are going through in our society. Yeah, change is good in many ways. You need something to shake things up. And I don't care what people say about Trump. He is President Trump, excuse me. He is absolutely a change maker. I mean, he came in and is shaking things up, right? So I think when you have a system going on, whether it's a political system, a government system, any kind of a system, it's good sometimes to have a shakeup. And then it's interesting to see what comes out of it. I think a lot of good will come out of something awful, which is what happened to George Floyd, right? But good will come out of that. Unfortunately, a lot of bad has come out of that too. So, you know, I think that there will always be change, always be change. Sometimes the change will be good. Sometimes the change will not be good. But we need to have constants in our life. And for me, you know, Jesus, for me, my family, for me, pets, those are constants that keep me going.
You were saying that, I was thinking about happen change and choice change. I think and I was just thinking about how you have things that happen to you, and it's like, how do you respond to things that happen upon you? And then those things
Right.
that you're choosing to change. And it's funny, like you said, society right now, we're in this place of we're trying to make choices and changes. And then how do we communicate the changes so that we are together when we get to the other side of the change? I think that's a lot of the flux that's going on right now. And it's like, you can't make a person change. You can share your heart, you can share your ideas and thoughts. And in a functional situation, we can have those conversations and move forward. I think that's, as I think about where we are today, my prayers that we do get to a point where we're listening. I think we're, like you said, that shake up, that shaking that happens and that rumbling, it's like after it happens, everyone's in shock and like, okay, now what?
Right.
Now can we listen to each other? Can we start moving this forward? This and saying, okay, where are we going?
Yep.
What's the healthiest way for us to get there? And again, it is how we respond. So that's the cool thing I've learned about change. It's more about how I respond to any of it, because and having a foundation is like God, Jesus is my foundation. So in my response, I look back and say, God, how do you want me to handle this place that I'm moving into? How do you want me to relate to the people that I'm relating to? Because it is about me, about how I'm relating with God and how I'm related with the people around me in this journey forward. So that change can be scary, but we have to go through, like you said, Jory, we have to go through it to get to the better. We can't stay in that single spot and not move.
Yeah.
I saw you, Michelle. Go ahead.
I am a true believer that God has a plan. And so, in order for you to get to the place that you need to get to, sometimes really bad things have to happen. One, either to get you out of your comfort zone and make you move to go in that direction that you wouldn't have gone in if that thing didn't happen. Or it's just the bad things have to happen in order to make the other things in the world change into that direction. I've gone through, my ex-husband committed suicide shortly after our divorce when my kids were 6 and 8. I literally lost my job, lost everything we had to move, restart, build up again. There's many things that I went through in life, and the bad things had to happen to change me on the inside to get in the direction I needed to get into. And so at the time you don't see it and you're devastated and you don't know why these things are happening. But when you go back and look, it's like a connect the dots, and you can see what happened and why to get you in that direction.
Absolutely. And there's a verse that's a foundation for me, Romans 8:28. And we know, I like how Paul starts that with the fact that we should already know this. All things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And by faith, I believe that I know I love God. By faith, I know that I have a calling, a plan. Like you said, Michelle, he has a plan for me. And that doesn't always necessarily mean I'm going to like how that plan's playing out. I'm definitely not going to understand it. And I certainly don't have, I feel like I'm a bright guy, but I don't have the brain power to understand how he moves across and does this across the whole world all at once.
Yeah.
And creates such what looks like radical change. But as I look back on it, I see the good in it. I see the things that occurred. And for me, I think the other word that comes to mind is perspective, right? When you have the perspective of time, when you have the perspective of faith, when you have the perspective of, good friends that you can have these discussions with at times, it helps me see how the change is benefiting me and how it's walking me forward, even though I may not like it. When I was young, early on, I'm going to go back over almost 30 years, back in the early 90s, I discovered I had a neurological problem, and I was becoming paralyzed. I was losing, the upper right side of my body is still partially paralyzed. And they had to do at the time, somewhat controversial neurosurgery to correct it. Well, that changed a lot of things in life for me. And, at the time when I had the surgery, I remember we'd been married less than a year. We just moved into a house, or we'd been married 18 months. We'd been married 18 months. We just bought a house and moved into it, just bought a car, and we're in Charlotte all by ourselves without family. And we had to navigate and go through this process. And I didn't want this process to happen, let's be clear. But there were so many benefits that came from that. We learned a lot about ourselves, what we were capable of, how we could stand together and we can accomplish things. And those tough times build bonds, at least for me. Every one of my good friends is a friend that was developed through adversity and through changes that we didn't want.
Oh, wow.
And those things come, those are the glues that bind you sometimes, and they bind a society. I remember, here in Baltimore, just a couple of days ago, they talked about, we had an explosion and in a neighborhood, and 3 houses just disappeared just like that, gone. But they talked about how the neighborhood rallied together, how they saw the heart and soul of Baltimore come together, people barefoot, and sleep in their PJs, running into the rubble and, without any consideration for their own lives and their own safety, to look for the injured and the lost. that, while yes, I wish, my desire was that that didn't happen, but you get to see a glimpse of the good in people also in the midst of those situations.
Yes, to all of that. But to kind of steer it in a different direction, though,
Go for it,
what
Brett.
about when it's too much change? Isn't that what a lot of many religious organizations might say? Like, you newfangled, blah, 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 blah. You're wrecking the pillars of our society. How do we know when it's too much change? Mother, you're still unmuted, so now you get to do it.
Well, okay, well, I just want you to know that I said to the group, anyone have questions or comments for the group? So if anyone who's watching responds, I'm going to toss that one out too, Brett. I really think that's going to depend on the person. There's not a too much change for, any one group unilaterally across
Christians,
the world.
Christianity,
Even
the
that,
Catholic Church.
well, I don't know. I can't speak to the Catholic Church, but I mean, there's so many different denominations.
A Methodist church split in two.
Okay, well, let's get specific. Let's talk about the Methodist Church, and let's talk about LGBTQ. How about that for an example? All right.
Is that too much change?
Well, that's the thing. For many people in the United Methodist Church, it is too much change to have people who are ordained ministers in the church, or for people who are, ordained ministers who are gay in the church, or LGBTQ plus be ordained, or to marry a couple that's not a heterosexual couple, right? So for many, many people in the United Methodist Church, it's too bad Byron isn't here today. He's our resident pastor who's in this group normally. Lucky him, he's on vacation. But for many people in the United Methodist Church, that is too different from the literal reading of the Bible and the traditions of the United Methodist Church up until now. Absolutely. I mean, it's been a rocky couple of years for the Methodists. For other people in the Methodist Church, the changes aren't coming fast enough. So, I mean, I think within any group, let's say if you're talking about change in Apple, change in Google, change in Microsoft, change in, the small company down the road, change in a little retail store, there's always going to be different. As long as there are two people, they're going to be different views. And somebody may be able to handle the change well, and the other person won't be able to handle it as well. So I think that really is one of those, it depends, Brett. I think we need to think about ourselves. Michelle's trying to say something. Yay.
Well, when it comes to change, if the change is done for love of people, then it's a good change. If it's done in love. But if the change is done in hate, then you're supposed to love everybody. Everybody's a person. You love them the way they are. So when it comes to that kind of change, like, you need to do it out of love, the love for everyone.
I would agree. I would say that God is consistent. God never changes. God is love, and God says that we are supposed to be the love, and we're supposed to show his love. Religion has rules, doctrines have rules, and that's when you get caught up in the change is too much or too fast or it's too slow. However, people are saying and how they're feeling. The most important feeling to God is love. How you feel, all the rest of it, people have an issue with Jesus right now in the church because it's a religion. Which way Jesus would have never said that because it wasn't in red. Okay, my Bible didn't have red writing. So does that mean, and it's things like that people are arguing about and fighting about because of religion, not because of the relationship we have with God. God is like, Jesus died for all of us, for the world, not just the Christians, but for the world, so that we can all know of the love of God, so that we can all come to him freely And we come all differently to him and how we, in our relationship with him. But that doesn't mean we don't come and say, God, you need to take me as I am, and all your rules and everything else can go away, you know. He's like, I want you to live the most abundant life you can, and listen to me, listen to what I'm telling to your heart. And as I'm walking you through this, you will become better and even find out more of who you are and how much I do love you. And then you can love your neighbor more, because now you know the value of who you are. But until we figure out the value and how much God loves us, and we can find that in ourselves, we have a difficult time sharing it with everyone else. So then we create all these rules and say, well, you have to do this because this is as far as I got in this journey. So you need to stay here with me. Don't make me look bad.
Yeah.
That's where religion gets into issues. That's just my opinion.
So what do we do when like the foundations of our life suddenly get called into question? Right? And isn't it kind of hard to distinguish it, or, you know, even say a relationship? You know, you built a life with this person, and all of a sudden you're looking around and you're like, I don't know if this is the case. Like, I don't know if this is healthy, but this is the foundation of my life.
Yeah.
How do you embrace that change? Like, this is a pillar here. This is what I've built my sense of concept, or my concept of self on, my concept of how, you know, who I am is. What do you do when those foundations go away? Or even when it's just something like being able to move your right shoulder. Suddenly that's not there. Like, how do you even think about doing that gracefully? Is the answer as simple as love? And how do we apply that to, you know, the life where my phone isn't working, or the dogs are barking and the kids need something? And how do you apply that?
It's finding out what's inside of you. Like you said, there's people who don't have limbs, who have been through war, and they come back from war without a limb, or
Oh, yeah.
part, you know, something is different than what they went. They have a change they have to deal with. And then all of a sudden you find your strength when you show them the strength of their character and who they are, and then show the workarounds to still be able to do the things in this world that you want to do. There is something that you find out about yourself. There's a strength that you find out about yourself when you have to face it. When all those things that you thought were the things that held you together are not there, and you find that you can still move forward, there is a strength and courage and tenacity in the human experience and who we are created to be. You know, I can't remember the young man's name, but he has no arms and no legs.
Yes.
But he's going around the world, you know, helping all these people,
Isn't that amazing?
you know, see the best in all that they can be, and happy and joyful.
Yeah. And doesn't he have a child?
I think he does. I
does.
think he does.
Yes.
Well, Regina, while you were talking, I'm thinking of Job, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he had everything taken from him, everything. And he held
And
on to
his-
his relationship with God.
His response was simply, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And, you know, we all have to deal with our own tragedies and challenges that we all face, whether it's the loss of a spouse or a family member, or, you know, a change in career or direction or health, etc. And again, it simply goes back to perspective, how we see ourselves in it. And I thought Brett brought out a really good point of identity, self-identity, how we identify ourselves. Because I remember as a, you know, strapping young mid 20-year-old something, and coming to the realization that I'm not going to function the same way anymore. My body is betraying me, right? This body that allowed me to play sports and travel the world and serve the military and do all these things isn't working the way I expected. And I think that tends to be the challenge, is what's my expectations, and then what's the reality, right? And how I see that reality. And so I determined, you know, after getting through the surgeries, that I was going to live life bolder. I was going to do more things, things I hadn't done before. You know, we went horseback riding. We had never done that before. You know, that's no big deal to, you know, the Fisher Ranch over there, but, you know, that was a big deal to a big deal to me. And, play baseball as an adult and travel and do more things, right? Because all of a sudden, instead of seeing what I lost, I saw what I could gain, the opportunities. I'm still here. I'm young. I'm healthy, relatively healthy. I can go experience these things, and let's go experience them at a new level. And my appreciation for the simpler things in life grew so much more. Now, I had the choice, and I spent a few minutes being bitter, being upset at what I thought I lost. But then I started looking at all the things I gained. And as I looked at those things, they far outweighed, the loss of a portion of my sensation and feelings.
Bless you,
Mom,
James. I
you
want
have
to.
let Michelle talk. You invited her. You didn't let her speak today, Mom.
Oh, she's spoken a little bit. We'll let Michelle get right back to you, but I wanted to ask Brett to be sure that you talk about something before we close, Brett. And that is, you were new to Portland when COVID hit, and your life has changed quite a bit. So I'd love to hear you talk about that, kind of answer your own questions. But
I mean, I was drifting. I was going to direct the COVID question to Michelle like a hot potato.
perfect. Well, we'll start with Michelle, but then I want to hear you talk about it too, Brett, if I may. Go, Michelle.
What question was how COVID affected? What was the question? Sorry.
I mean, in essence, it comes down to there's several elephants in the room these days. One being the Black Lives Matter movement, and that's a whole other question. That is a demand for change. And the other elephant in the room is COVID. It's changed all of our lives, and I don't know if we can have a one answer fits all for everyone, especially for those who've lost jobs, lost family members. But how do we react to COVID with grace, even though we have no idea what's happening next?
So with every situation, you have to really and sometimes dig super deep for the positive that's coming out of it. So with COVID, I'm super blessed and grateful that my business is doing really well because of it. And I got to meet a ton of new people that I would never have met if it weren't for that, because I was able to do a lot of different calls with them that I would not have had the opportunity to. So I met people all over the world. So I'm really grateful for that. And people I'm grateful that I got to spend extra time with my kids that I wouldn't have gotten to spend time with them. So I think families in a whole got to spend more time with their families. People with businesses, some of them got redirected into something other than what they were planning. Like this woman that I met the other day, oh my gosh, she makes these pies. They're like works of art.
Uh-oh, Brett's going to want to know her name.
Oh my gosh, like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. Like they have all these, it's gorgeous. So she lost her job and she made these pies for her mom, and like someone saw it and said, you should really, like, you should do that. Like, that's amazing. So she started, it's called Crust Me. Love the name.
Clever.
Me, but she ended up starting this pie company that's just taken off. And I mean, literally, these are works of art. I don't know if she ships them or what, but she's local here and it's amazing. So there's people that are getting other opportunities out of this that they would have not had the opportunity to have. So there's silver linings in everything. You just have to look for them. And sometimes it involves just stretching your imagination and looking inward to find some other avenue or some other opportunity.
Beautiful.
I like it. Well, to answer my personal take on COVID, I mean, it wasn't, yeah, again, there's definitely some frustrating moments at the beginning, some hiccups. We all have our moments when we seek that initial bouts of change, and you're not ready to sit with it mindfully and with grace yet. And I don't know, you stamp your feet, I do. I mean, I realize I still stamp my feet and shake my fists. I just sometimes do it in more sophisticated ways. And sometimes it's, I'm upset, I don't want to deal with it, so I'm going to binge watch Netflix. Or I'm upset, I don't want to deal with it, so I'm going to drink this handle of Jack. And I think, adults do the same things as kids. We just dress it up and make it look differently, And again, like, I'm upset. This gallon of ice cream is gone. Not mom's, because she doesn't eat ice cream and it's weird. Anyway, but for me personally, I definitely had some bouts of that. I mean, move aside, I didn't know anyone. I was just like, why are my parks closed? I want to go to the park. I came to Pacific Northwest to meet people, which I now can't do, and I want to go to the park, and now the park's closed. It's very distressed. But then again, it eventually comes to a moment of shifting to what you do have. And I guess the attitude that I have with it now is, well, the parks are reopening slowly. So that's a win. But also, I'm grateful for this enforced isolation, because I'm definitely the type to want to do all the things, or I had a very frantic perfectionist, let me do all the things, and if I do all the things, no one's going to question me because they're going to assume I got things right, when really, like, I'm just not at peace with myself. So I've enjoyed this period to kind of try and build a foundation within myself of compassion and learning to slow down and kind of notice when I'm upset and try and figure out why I'm upset. Kind of that sense of curiosity, as opposed to just blow past it and eat another cookie. If that kind of answers the question.
That's good, Brett. You guys, let me see. Looks like we don't have any questions, but who has a call? It's the top of the hour. So let's go ahead and see if anybody has any last comments. Michelle, I really want to thank you for being part of us today. What'd you think of it?
Oh, this was awesome. Thank you so much for including me. It was so nice meeting all of you.
Absolutely.
Awesome people, aren't they? Well, good. We will talk off camera. So anybody else have anything to say before? Brett, do you want to close us out in prayer? And I'll look to see if anybody here has any final comments or questions, here being in the comments. I don't think so. Thanks for listening, everybody, or watching. Oh, and if you watch the replay, just put #replay. I would appreciate that. All right, Brett.
Hashtags. Okay.
Hashtag replay.
All right. My else. God of big changes, God of small changes. Help us to find the grace to notice them and to look for the silver lining. Help us to find the compassion for when we don't adjust as quickly as perhaps a quote ideal world could hope. And help us to slow down enough to be mindful of those changes into what's really upsetting us.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, thank y'all, love y'all, and thank you for whoever is watching. We hope you found this of benefit in some way. We'd love for you to comment if you did get something out of it. That would be nice to know. Anyway, all right, y'all, have a great day. God, the thunderstorms didn't shut us down.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.